My beloved brothers and sisters, we live in a time where everyone feels the need to speak, to respond, to explain, to defend, to announce, and to expose. Silence has become rare, and noise has become normal. Yet Allah, in His wisdom, teaches us something extremely powerful. Sometimes the most obedient action is not to speak at all. How many times have we destroyed our own peace because we opened our mouths too quickly? How many friendships were broken? How many families divided? How many hearts hurt? Not by actions, but by words. A single sentence spoken without thought can undo years of goodness. And that is why Allah reminds us again and again to be careful with our tongues. Understand this clearly. Allah hears every word, not only the loud ones, not only the public ones, but even the whispered ones, even the words spoken in anger, even the words spoken just to let it out. Angels are recording, and the tongue does not move except that it carries consequences. If we truly believe this at the moment of speaking, we would pause far more often. There is strength in silence. Silence is not weakness. Silence is self-control. When you remain quiet while being provoked, you are not losing, you are winning. When you choose not to respond to insults, you are rising above them. When you hold your tongue while your ego wants to speak, your soul is growing stronger. The tongue is a small organ, but its impact is massive. It can earn you Jannah with words of kindness, remembrance, and sincerity. And it can drag a person into regret with lies, gossip, arrogance, and anger. Many people fear physical sins, but take verbal sins lightly, not realizing that the tongue can be more dangerous than the hand. Not everything in your life needs to be shared. Your struggles, your plans, your pain, your blessings. Some things are between you and Allah. Oversharing weakens you, invites envy, and exposes you to unnecessary harm. Allah did not command us to announce everything. He commanded us to trust Him. There are moments when silence is an act of worship. When you stay quiet to avoid backbiting, that silence is rewarded. When you remain silent to prevent an argument, that silence protects your Iman. When you keep quiet instead of spreading negativity, that silence purifies your heart. And listen carefully. Silence brings peace. The heart that speaks less complains less. The soul that argues less rests more. The believer who controls the tongue finds tranquility because they are not constantly cleaning the mess their words created. So before you speak, pause. Ask yourself, will this please Allah? Is this necessary? Is this kind? If it is not, then remember, sometimes Allah's wisdom is simply telling us, keep your mouth shut and keep your heart connected to Him. My brothers and sisters, one of the greatest protections Allah has given us is the ability to remain silent. Yet it is one of the most neglected gifts. So many wounds in our lives did not come from what we did, but from what we said. A careless sentence, a joke taken too far, a response spoken in anger. These moments often become lifelong regrets. Silence, when chosen for the sake of Allah, acts like a shield. It stands between us and sin, between us and humiliation, between us and harm we never intended. Think about how many times trouble entered our lives through the mouth. A secret shared with the wrong person. A complaint spoken in frustration. A harsh word said during an argument. At that moment, it feels light, even justified. But later, when the damage is done, we wish we could pull those words back. Actions can sometimes be corrected, but words, once released, take a life of their own. Allah, in His mercy, gives us silence as a way out. A moment to pause before crossing a line that cannot be uncrossed. Silence protects relationships. Many homes are broken not because love disappeared, but because tongues were not controlled. A husband says something he cannot take back. A wife responds in pain, and the gap widens. Parents speak harshly. Children withdraw. Friends exchange words that leave scars deeper than any physical wound. If only silence had stepped in for a few seconds, the story could have been different. Remaining quiet at the right time is not losing an argument. It is saving a bond. Silence also protects our dignity. When we react immediately to insults, rumors, or accusations, we often lower ourselves to a level we later regret. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every provocation requires a reply. Sometimes Allah elevates you by allowing others to speak while you remain calm. People may misunderstand silence as weakness, but Allah knows it as strength. The believer who controls the tongue controls the situation. There is also protection from sin in silence. Backbiting, lying, exaggeration, arrogance, mockery. Most of these sins require words. If the mouth remains closed, the sin has no doorway. Many people are careful about what they eat, where they go and what they do, yet they leave their tongues completely unguarded. Silence blocks the path to many sins before they even begin. Silence protects the heart as well. The more we speak unnecessarily, the heavier the heart becomes. Complaining too much fills the soul with negativity. Responding to every issue drains emotional energy. But when a believer learns to remain quiet and turn inward, the heart finds calm. Instead of reacting to people, the believer turns to Allah. Instead of arguing, they make dua. Instead of explaining themselves, they trust Allah to defend them. Understand this. Silence does not mean accepting injustice or abandoning truth. It means choosing the right time, the right words, and the right intention. It means not allowing emotions to hijack the tongue. It means understanding that not every battle is yours to fight. Some battles are won by walking away. Allah knows what you are holding back. He sees the restraint. He sees the patience. And for every word you do not say to protect yourself and others, there is a reward. Silence, when chosen consciously, becomes worship. It becomes a form of obedience. It becomes protection in this world and the next. So learn to value silence. Before speaking, pause. Let silence stand guard. It may save your faith, your relationships, your dignity, and your peace. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the most powerful realities we often forget is that Allah hears every single word that leaves our mouths. Not some words, not the public ones only, not the polite ones we choose carefully, but every word spoken in anger, spoken in secrecy, spoken in jest, and spoken when we think no one is listening. This awareness alone, if it truly settled in our hearts, would completely change the way we speak. Many people are careful with their words in front of certain individuals. They think before speaking to elders, leaders, or those they fear losing. Yet when it comes to Allah, whose presence is constant and whose knowledge is complete, we become careless. We speak freely, assuming the moment will pass without consequence. But nothing is lost with Allah. Every word is known, recorded, and weighed, even the ones we dismiss as small or harmless. When you truly believe that Allah hears you, silence becomes easier. You begin to question yourself before speaking. You pause and ask, would I say this if I knew this moment would be replayed before me on the day of judgment? Because that is exactly what will happen. Words do not disappear after they are spoken, they are preserved. The tongue moves lightly, but the record it creates is heavy. Allah hears the words of complaint we speak about others, and He also hears the complaints we raise about Him when frustration causes us to speak without gratitude or patience. He hears the sarcasm, the mockery, the exaggeration, the subtle insults disguised as humor. Nothing escapes His knowledge. And this should not make us fearful in a hopeless way, but conscious in a responsible way. There is mercy in this awareness as well. Allah also hears the quiet words of repentance, the whispered dua, the words of encouragement we offer, and the kind sentences spoken when no one else is watching. Just as harmful words are recorded, so are the good ones. A soft response, a word that calms someone's heart, a sentence that prevents conflict, all of it is known to Allah. Even silence, when chosen to avoid sin, is recognized. The danger is not in speaking alone, it is in speaking without remembrance of Allah. When the heart is disconnected, the tongue becomes reckless. When the heart remembers Allah, the tongue becomes disciplined. This is why those who are conscious of Allah speak less, but when they speak, their words carry weight. They understand that every word is either a witness for them or against them. Many people regret what they said, not immediately, but later, sometimes years later. A child remembers a harsh sentence from a parent. A spouse remembers words spoken in anger. A friend remembers a careless remark. Those words may be forgotten by the speaker, but they remain alive in the hearts of others, and they are preserved with Allah. This is why accountability begins with awareness. Knowing that Allah hears you also protects you from hypocrisy. You stop performing for people and start speaking with sincerity. You do not change your tone based on who is present, because you know Allah is always present. Your private speech begins to reflect your public speech, and your character becomes consistent. If we trained ourselves to remember Allah at the moment of speaking, our lives would be lighter. Fewer apologies, fewer regrets, fewer broken bonds. The mouth would no longer rush ahead of the heart. Silence would no longer feel uncomfortable, it would feel safe. So remember this deeply and constantly. Allah hears you. Let that awareness guard your tongue, soften your words, and purify your intentions. When the tongue is guided by consciousness of Allah, it becomes a source of peace instead of pain, reward instead of regret. My brothers and sisters, in a world that rewards loud voices and quick reactions, Allah invites us to something far more powerful, to speak less and reflect more. Many people believe wisdom comes from having an answer for everything, but true wisdom often appears in the pause before speaking. Reflection gives words meaning, direction, and restraint. Without it, speech becomes impulsive, and impulsive speech often leads to regret. When a person speaks constantly, the heart rarely gets the chance to think. The tongue begins to lead and the mind follows. But when a believer slows down, remains silent, and reflects, the heart is given space to weigh intentions. Is this statement necessary? Is it beneficial? Is it pleasing to Allah? These questions rarely arise when speech is rushed, but they naturally surface in moments of silence. Reflection is a sign of maturity. Children speak without thinking, but growth brings restraint. A believer who reflects understands that not every thought deserves to become a word. Thoughts come from many places: emotion, ego, frustration, or pride, but words carry accountability. By reflecting before speaking, a purr. Sun filters what is useful from what is harmful. Silence also strengthens patience. When someone provokes you, your first instinct is often to defend yourself or respond sharply, but when you pause even briefly, you regain control. That pause allows patience to enter the moment, and patience transforms reactions into decisions. Instead of reacting emotionally, the believer responds intentionally or chooses not to respond at all. Reflection deepens understanding. When you speak less, you listen more. And when you listen more, you learn. Many misunderstandings exist not because people disagree, but because they do not listen. Silence opens the door to empathy. It allows you to see beyond your own perspective and recognize the emotions and struggles of others. This kind of awareness softens the heart and refines character. Speaking less also nurtures sincerity. Excessive speech often comes with exaggeration, self-praise, or the desire to impress. Reflection removes that need. When the heart is calm and aware of Allah, it no longer seeks validation through words. Speech becomes purposeful rather than performative. The believer speaks to benefit, not to be noticed. Reflection reconnects us with Allah. In silence, the heart remembers. Constant talking leaves little room for remembrance, but quiet moments invite introspection. You begin to notice your own faults instead of pointing out others. You turn inward rather than outward. And this internal awareness is the foundation of spiritual growth. Many conflicts would disappear if people reflected before speaking. Harsh words are rarely premeditated. They are usually emotional. Reflection cools anger and softens tone. It gives you the strength to choose calmness over confrontation. And often, silence itself becomes the solution. Arguments need participation to survive. When one side withdraws with dignity, the conflict loses power. Reflection also protects from overexposure. Not every opinion needs to be shared, and not every experience needs to be explained. When a believer reflects, they understand the value of privacy. Silence guards personal matters and prevents unnecessary vulnerability. It keeps dignity intact and intentions pure. Speaking less does not mean withdrawing from goodness or avoiding truth. It means choosing words carefully, placing them where they belong, and holding them back where they may cause harm. It means allowing the heart to guide the tongue instead of the other way around. When reflection becomes a habit, speech becomes refined. Words become fewer, but their impact becomes greater. Silence stops being empty and starts becoming meaningful. And through this balance, the believer finds peace, wisdom, and closeness to Allah. My beloved brothers and sisters, never underestimate the power that Allah has placed in your tongue. It is small in size, yet its impact is enormous. With the same tongue, a person can rise in the sight of Allah or fall into deep regret. A single sentence can heal a broken heart, and a single sentence can shatter it. This is why the tongue is one of the greatest tests given to the believer. Words have the ability to elevate a person. A kind reminder can bring someone back to Allah. A sincere compliment can restore confidence in a heart that was struggling. A word of encouragement can become the reason someone does not give up. Even a simple phrase spoken with sincerity can be written as charity. These are not grand speeches, but small, intentional words that carry immense weight because Allah looks at the intention behind them. At the same time, the tongue can be destructive. One careless comment can humiliate someone publicly. One lie can destroy trust that took years to build. One moment of sarcasm can leave scars that never full. Why heal? Many people suffer silently because of words spoken to them long ago. The speaker may have moved on, but the wound remains in the heart of the listener. This is the danger of treating speech lightly. What makes the tongue so dangerous is how easy it is to use. It requires no effort, no preparation, no cost. That ease is deceptive. Because it feels effortless, people forget its accountability. They speak without thinking, joke without boundaries, and criticize without compassion. Yet every word is weighed, and every word has consequences, both seen and unseen. The believer understands that elevation does not come from speaking a lot, but from speaking with purpose. Words that please Allah lift a person's status even if no one applauds them. A soft response when anger is expected is a sign of strength. Remaining respectful when disagreement arises is a form of dignity. These moments may go unnoticed by people, but they are never unnoticed by Allah. On the other hand, a person can appear confident, clever, and outspoken, yet their words may be the very reason they lose Allah's pleasure. Arrogance often reveals itself through speech. So does mockery, jealousy, and pride. The tongue exposes what the heart carries. If the heart is clean, the words reflect it. If the heart is diseased, the tongue becomes its loudest evidence. One of the greatest losses is when a person does many good deeds but destroys them with their tongue. Backbiting, slander, and harsh criticism drain rewards quietly. The person may feel relieved after speaking, but the cost is paid later. This is why controlling the tongue is not a small matter. It is protection for one's entire faith. The same tongue that recites remembrance can also spread harm. The choice is constant. Every conversation is an opportunity to elevate or destroy. The believer becomes mindful of this choice. They do not aim for perfection, but for consciousness. When a mistake happens, they seek forgiveness quickly, knowing the seriousness of what was said. If we truly reflected on the power of the tongue, we would speak with more care. We would use our words to uplift, not belittle, to guide, not humiliate, to bring peace, not chaos. Allah has given us this tool as a test. Those who use it wisely rise. Those who misuse it fall. So guard your tongue. Let your words be a ladder toward Allah, not a hole you dig for yourself. My brothers and sisters, one of the greatest gifts Allah places in the heart of a believer is peace. And one of the fastest ways to lose that peace is through uncontrolled speech. Many people search for tranquility in external things, yet they overlook something simple and powerful: silence. When the tongue is restrained, the heart becomes lighter, the mind becomes calmer, and the soul finds rest. So much inner turmoil is self-created. We replay conversations in our minds, regret what we said, worry about how our words were received, or stress over how to respond next. When speech is excessive, the heart is rarely at ease. Silence, on the other hand, reduces this burden. When you speak less, there is less to regret, less to explain, and less to defend. The heart is freed from unnecessary noise. Silence also protects the heart from negativity. Complaints, arguments, and constant commentary drain emotional energy. The more a person speaks about problems, the heavier those problems feel. But when a believer chooses silence and turns inward, the heart begins to rely on Allah rather than people. Instead of venting endlessly, they make dua. Instead of reacting emotionally, they seek patience. This shift brings calm where chaos once lived. Inner peace grows when the ego is quiet. Many words are spoken not out of necessity but out of pride. The need to be right, to be he, to be acknowledged. Silence humbles the ego. It teaches the soul that it does not need to dominate every conversation. When the ego softens, the heart relaxes. And when the heart relaxes, peace follows naturally. Silence also brings clarity. When the mind is constantly speaking, it cannot think deeply. Quiet moments allow reflection. They help you recognize what truly matters and what does not. You begin to see that many arguments were never worth having and many explanations were never required. This awareness simplifies life and removes unnecessary stress. There is also peace in knowing you did not contribute to harm. When you hold your tongue and avoid backbiting, you sleep with a lighter heart. When you stay silent instead of responding harshly, you avoid guilt. When you protect someone's honor by saying nothing, your conscience remains clear. This inner cleanliness is a form of peace that no material comfort can provide. Silence strengthens trust in Allah. When you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you begin to rely on Allah to clarify matters. When you stop defending your reputation, you trust Allah to protect your dignity. This surrender removes anxiety. You realize that not everyone needs to understand you, and not every misunderstanding needs correction. Allah knows the truth, and that is enough. Peace also comes from spiritual focus. Excessive talk distracts the heart from remembrance. Silence creates space for dhikr, reflection, and awareness of Allah's presence. The heart that remembers Allah finds tranquility, and silence is often the doorway to that remembrance. Silence does not mean isolation or coldness. It means intentional speech. It means choosing calm over chaos and patience over reaction. It means protecting your heart the same way you protect your body from harm. When silence becomes a habit, peace becomes a companion. The believer walks lighter, sleeps calmer, and lives with fewer regrets. In a noisy world, silence becomes a sanctuary. And in that sanctuary, the heart reconnects with Allah, finding a peace that words can never provide. My brothers and sisters, one of the most misunderstood aspects of faith and maturity is knowing what to keep private. Allah has created certain matters as a trust, not as content for conversation, not as stories for attention, and not as explanations for approval. When we fail to protect what is meant to be private, we often expose ourselves to harm we never anticipated. Not every struggle needs an audience. Not every pain requires a public explanation. Many people feel lighter after speaking, but they do not realize that they have handed their vulnerability to those who may not guard it. When personal matters are shared carelessly, they can be misunderstood, repeated, or even used against you. Silence in these moments becomes a shield. Allah teaches us dignity through restraint. There is honor in keeping certain things between yourself and Him. Your sins, your fears, your future plans, and even some of your blessings are safer when they are protected. Oversharing invites envy, judgment, and interference. What Allah has not asked you to reveal, He has asked you to protect. Private matters are also a test of trust. When someone confides in you, their words become a responsibility. Repeating them, even casually, is a betrayal. Many relationships collapse not because of hatred, but because trust was broken through speech. Silence preserves trust. It tells people that their hearts are safe with you. There is also wisdom in not explaining yourself unnecessarily. Some people will never understand you, no matter how clearly you speak. Trying to convince everyone drains emotional energy and weakens inner strength. The believer learns that approval from Allah is enough. When intentions are pure, there is no need for constant justification. Protecting privacy also nurtures sincerity. When good deeds are announced, they risk being contaminated by pride. When struggles are constantly shared, they risk becoming performative. Silence keeps intentions clean. It allows actions to remain between you and Allah where they are safest. Many regrets are born from speaking too much. A moment of emotional honesty becomes lifelong exposure. A temporary frustration becomes a permanent label. Words spoken in weakness often echo louder than intended. Silence, however, gives time. Time to heal, time to think, time to make wiser decisions. Privacy also protects relationships. Arguments discussed publicly become harder to resolve privately. Family matters shared outside the home invite opinions that complicate healing. When issues are kept contained, they are easier to mend. Silence, here, becomes an act of mercy. Allah knows your situation even when no one else does. He hears the unspoken pain and sees the unshared struggle. Turning to Him in private builds a deeper connection than seeking validation from people. This private reliance strengthens faith and reduces disappointment. Keeping matters private does not mean suppressing emotions or avoiding help. It means choosing carefully who deserves access to your inner world. Not everyone has earned that trust. Silence helps you discern. When you learn to protect what is sacred, your life becomes more stable. Fewer explanations, fewer regrets, fewer wounds. In guarding your privacy, you guard your peace, your dignity, and your relationship with Allah. My brothers and sisters, as we reflect on everything that has been said, one truth becomes clear. The tongue is not a small matter in the sight of Allah. It is a test, a trust, and a responsibility. Through it, we can protect ourselves or destroy ourselves, draw closer to Allah or distance our hearts from Him. Every word carries weight and every moment of silence carries wisdom. Allah has shown us that silence is not emptiness but protection. Protection from sin, from regret, from broken relationships, and from inner turmoil. When we speak less, we give our heart space to reflect, our souls room to grow, and our faith the chance to strengthen. When we remember that Allah hears every word, our speech becomes mindful and our silence becomes meaningful. We learn that the tongue can elevate with kindness, remembrance, and sincerity, or lower us with arrogance, gossip, and anger. We learn that not everything needs to be shared, explained, or defended, and that dignity is preserved when private matters remain private. We learn that peace enters the heart when the tongue is restrained, and that true strength lies in self-control, not in loudness. So let us leave with a renewed awareness. Before speaking, let us pause. Before responding, let us reflect. Before sharing, let us ask whether Allah would be pleased. And when silence is the better choice, let us embrace it without fear or guilt. May Allah grant us tongues that speak only what benefits, hearts that are conscious of Him, and silence that protects our faith, our dignity, and our peace. Ameen.